place to start is to ask you first to briefly describe what the Sedona method is. Bob?
Well, the Sedona method is something that's simple. I think that's the first thing that I'd like people to know. And it's something that's natural and something that's spontaneous. If you watch little kids play, you'll see them switch from one emotion, perhaps anger, sadness, or fear, to another one instantaneously almost. They'll go from one feeling to another and then back again. They're playing with someone they were mad at. The method is a way that we re-experience that way we dealt with it in childhood. We identify the feeling, and then we release it so that when we check back inside, it's gone. And that's that's the beautiful part of it. It's something all of us have done. It's something that people find it easy to learn on course. And the thing some people would like to know is, well, what does it feel like? And I often ask people to remember a time that they've been, for example, in a big parking lot in a city, maybe one with several levels. They've lost their car. Can't remember whether it was in the H's or the I's. They look around, they get more and more upset, frustrated, and finally, after 5 minutes of getting more and more tense or worried about it, another car pulls out. They see their car. That feeling of release, of relief, is what the method teaches us to do.
You know, both of you, Bob, yourself, practiced medicine for 20 years before becoming involved, I think, full-time with the Sedona method as a teacher. And you, David, you were located in at the pinnacle of the medical profession, being known as the father of orthomolecular psychiatry and co-authoring the classic text with Linus Pauling. How is it that you became involved with this method and now find yourself living in Sedona, Arizona, far away from the pinnacles of fame that you once knew?
Well, I found a method that was more effective than psychoanalysis, which I'd also done for some years, more effective than any form of therapy. The releasing method, for instance, allows you to come out of a feeling that may have plagued you for 20 years in an instant. You can accomplish things in moments that would take months or years in therapy. And I've always searched for something to relieve human suffering. That's how I got into orthomolecular psychiatry. Everything I've ever done has been sort of geared in that direction. I never saw a more effective method than this in relieving human suffering instantly. And I've done most of the consciousness programs around. This I found to be the purest. In other words, it's a very simple technique. And what Lester discovered that was amazing was...
You're referring to the founder, the creator.
The founder, yeah. And that there's another method that psychiatry had not found of handling feelings, and that is releasing them. See, Anna Freud, in her book on the ego and the methods of defense, we all know that repression and suppression and displacement, all these common ways of handling feelings. But what Lester came upon was that these feelings can be released. In other words, as the energy, the suppressed energy comes up, the feeling is released instantly, as fast as that. So that you can be angry at somebody for 20 years and mulling it around with guilt and trying to forgive and going through all your mental processes. And the instant you release it, it's gone. And it works just marvelously. The amount of fear, for instance, that it releases, fear being like Jampolsky and Course in Miracles says there's only two emotions, love and fear. Anyway, just as I noticed walking up to the Grand Canyon, at one time I had such a fear of heights I wouldn't get within a block of the Grand Canyon. And now I can sit on the edge and look over. I mean, that was a lifetime fear. I mean, it was more than a fear, it was a terror. And I can sit on the edge of the Grand Canyon, look down happily, swinging my feet. So anything that can release that intense fear of that many years' duration in a few instants. Must be a powerful technique.
Do you recall when you first came in touch with the method?
I think it was 76 or 77. I'd already done EST and a number of other things. And somebody told me that this was far and beyond anything that they had seen or tried. Well, I've been a student of Zen for many years, and Buddhism in general. So when I heard it was a method that releases you from your attachments, well, that's all you need, of course, to go the whole route. You can release yourself from your attachments, then the end is certain. So as soon as I heard that, I thought, well, fantastic. You know, the Buddha said the cause of all suffering is attachments. So if there was a method that instantaneously releases you, that's just what I wanted. So I went right for it. And I found it worked instantly. The very first day they teach you the method, so I naturally experimented with it. I remember at the time I went to learn the course, I had a surgical condition for which I was scheduled for surgery on a Friday. A structural change of the body that requires nothing but surgery. No medical thing could have helped it. And by the time I finished the weekend, it was gone. Canceled the surgery, never had it back. And I said, wow, this is something.
It's quite a testimonial.
Yes.
Really.
That was my first experience. And of course, at that time, I had many stress-related illnesses. I had duodenal ulcer and diverticulitis and migraine headaches and many allergies. And they were all cured instantly. Diverticulitis is gone, ulcer's gone, all the allergies gone, fear of heights is gone. I found I could cure anything in the body. I remember a year ago I broke my foot in November, and by Christmas I was dancing in the disco. And I really demonstrated that the body does what the mind believes. So, for instance, I can stop bleeding in an instant. If I cut myself, it instantly stops bleeding. I walk through poison ivy. So just releasing on these programs that we have is what frees us.
Bob, do you recall your first contact with the method?
The first contact I had was about 2 years ago. And at that time, I'd been in private practice. I'd taught neurology for about 7 or 8 years before that. I'd been in private practice for about 2 years. For about 6 months, and two close friends of mine became quite ill. I had thought I was pretty much in control of things, but the impact of illness and those close to me, whom I was taking care of, made me realize that there was something missing. And a friend of mine told me about the method. I took it, and I found that I was able to take my insecurities, my feeling uncomfortable in this two difficult situations, and release them so I could be much more of service to those people. I could feel better. I could maintain an objective, still care for them, but maintain a more detached attitude. And as I did it more and more, I felt better than I'd ever been able to feel before. I realized as I compared using the method with what I was able to do in my practice that using the method to give to people, I was able to give them something that they could use for themselves. In my practice, I'd tried to do that. I would ask people, and I'd started early when I was in medicine. I realized that what I'd been taught in medical school was only the smallest part of the tip of the iceberg. I had been taught, as a matter of fact, I realized and I knew at the time, I was being taught lots and lots about the most esoteric, arcane, special illnesses. So I was an expert on those things. But as I got into seeing what was really the problem with people, I saw that those illnesses were extremely rare and that the common things I really had never been taught anything about. Back pain, headaches, muscle tightness, various things that all of us go through, but in medical school there's very little taught. And most doctors, I think, are at a loss to deal with these problems. They can see there's some emotional component, but just how to deal with it is left up to, physical therapists, perhaps use of massage, Valium, drugs like that. Well, I could see that those things were very important because most of the patients I saw either had them or in response to a serious illness, their emotional